right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Cornhole Geartalk, presented by West Georgia Cornhole and Titan Bags. I am your host, Ben, and I'm here with my co-host, Kendall.
What's going on, everyone?
And Josh.
Howdy, howdy.
Man, you guys did it right this week.
I couldn't be mean 2 weeks in a row.
Honestly, I couldn't remember what Kendall normally says. I was going to do it, but I couldn't remember.
Yeah, well,
Next time.
what are we talking about today, Josh?
Cornhole psychology.
This is going to be super interesting. This is an episode that we've kind of flirted around with in the past of doing, and now that we're doing it, I feel as though this might be one of the most interesting episodes we do.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm interested to know like what the stats do on how many views and listens it gets, because I feel like this is something that people would share out and be like, oh, that's interesting.
I feel like this is like a clickbaity intro to a podcast. This is going to be the best episode we've ever done.
So hint, share it out with your friends. That's actually kind of part of this whole thing. It's about psychology.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Do we want them to share it and then they're not going to, but then we say not to and then they're going to? It's like, who knows?
Yeah, you don't
don't
have
share
to.
it.
Yeah.
We won't be upset if you don't. I mean, it's
Yeah.
no big deal.
I would be furious if you guys shared this. I would be really offended.
Now they don't know what to do.
Exactly.
Now they're just going to be
We're back to square one.
They're just going to be frozen in this like state of things. Yeah. So what do you do with it? Well, okay. So I guess it might be helpful to define like what is this cornhole psychology thing that we're talking about? Well, I mean, it kind of speaks for itself, but it's what's going on inside your head, but also what's going on inside the head of your opponent at the same time.
And I feel like this is one of those categories in cornhole that until you get to a super high level, you don't even consider it.
Oh, dude. No way.
Yeah.
I consider it all the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big player. I mean, you see it in tons of scenarios.
Yeah, so I guess we can start off with a little bit of a story. So I am not good. However, there was one time I hit the hottest streak of my life. And I was up at one of the Triple Crown tournaments. And I just wasn't missing at all. I was just mowing people down. I was moving my way up. And I made it all the way to the finals. And I get up there on this main stage, as humble as it was back in the beginnings of the Triple Crown tournaments. You know, they had like the little like webcam thing set up for the live stream, and it cut out every 5 seconds kind of deal. But like the pressure of being just on that.
Oh, for sure.
And having all those people watching me, I couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
And like I had thrown incredible all day long. And then I get up there and the guy that I'm throwing against, like, no offense to you if you're listening or whatever, you're amazing, but I was better than him. And then I lost.
Yeah.
I couldn't hang because my brain just went into a different mode.
Oh, for sure.
And I think that we see that a lot, that you've got all these players that will practice the mechanics. They will practice their throw, the release, if they step or don't step. They will play with different bags to see what slide they like, what kind of approach they want to take with that. They'll play on different boards to see how bags react with the boards and all this. But not many people that I know of that prepare themselves mentally for what's about to happen.
Yeah.
And it's a really difficult thing to do, honestly, until you experience it and you are aware of what you're going to experience. Then it's really hard to prepare for that, like super, super hard.
That's what I was going to ask is, like, realistically, how do you prep for that outside of, you know, like public speaking and things that are external from cornhole? Because, like, otherwise you set your boards up in, like, a Walmart parking lot. Like, just like...
Well, so this is, like, a really dumb example, but I was actually trying to rack my brain earlier to think about, like, what are some ways that you actually can practice this kind of stuff? Like, with combating noise and all this stuff. So one of the things that I thought about was turning on like random YouTube videos in the background where you're hearing people talk or whatever, or even just having, like, this sounds stupid, but having like a clip of a baby crying or something. So stuff that would normally just really just throw you off in everyday life, but you're trying to set your focus apart from all of those things, like
You just get your wife yelling your like most deepest insecurities at you while you're playing.
That would do it.
so a normal day.
Oh, yeah.
You're in trouble.
I'm just kidding.
Oh man. Yeah, I'm sure
My-
she watches this.
My wife is the most wonderful woman in the world, and I do not say that jokingly. She's a great lady. Yeah.
This sounds really silly. I'm going to stir away from this so you don't get any more trouble. But it's really silly. But one way that was one of my biggest struggles when I started to get halfway decent is I would get in scenarios like, we'll put it this way. The very first time I overcame it was when we used to do singles on Fridays here at the shop, just with people at the shop. And of course, everybody knows Bruce Hawkins. He's really, really good.
Who?
You might not know him, but he's insanely good. And I think it was the third week of that, I double dipped him and got the win in singles against Bruce. And that win right there, I got back to the king seat game and my mind just stayed clear. And I was able to push through it. And I threw my game and I was able to beat him. And that was the first time I was able to really sit back and look at it and be like, okay, this is what you normally do and it doesn't work. Let's practice this. And even knowing what to practice, it's still difficult. But now it's so silly. I kind of feel like a dweeb for even saying this, but what I'll do now, one thing that's helped me a lot lately is I'll set up little scenarios in my head like, oh, you're at the pro shootout. It's round 9. You're playing Mark Richards. You got to hit this airmail. And that seemed to help me a little bit here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those things, like I said, it sounds so silly saying out loud, but it does help.
I would assume, I've seen a lot of people do it, and I feel like previously I've always just kind of assumed like, I don't know why I guess I don't know what you're going to gain from this if you have like 2 people watching. But I could see like just anytime you practice, just going live on Facebook or TikTok or something and putting yourself in a situation where you know people are watching. Yeah. And then also just even if nobody watches, post it to Facebook every time. And I feel like, then you're kind of at least a little bit more prepared for that anxiety of people watching, people criticizing your play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is something that's going to happen that somebody is going to notice or whatever, and that's in the back of your head.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I feel like that's what separates some of these high-level pros is their ability to just do what they do all the time. Mm-hmm. And it's honestly quite impressive. Like, you look at stats and everything. I mean, you can look at stats all day long, and if somebody throws better than another person, it really just depends on the day. If that one person that is technically worse stays sharp, stays focused, then it can be a landslide over a better player.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like here's what's so silly. So every year, every now and then, our company, like we'll have a company-wide just like fun cornhole tournament, right? I have won every single one of those with the exception of one.
Yeah.
And
we've only done 3 now, so chill.
We've only done 2 of them. No, but it's like I've won so many of those, and I walk into it, and it's just such a low-pressure environment. It's like, whatever happens, whatever. But then when I play any kind of serious match with anybody, it's like, oh, man, what's going on? I'm losing. Oh, no.
Yeah.
I'm getting further behind. I'm panicking, and it just collapses.
Yeah. You got that home court advantage kind of like you're just more comfortable in the hideaway.
Yeah, and what also can play into that too, like you say when you're super relaxed, not much pressure, you throw better, but also if you play like that all the time, your throw can get lazy. And that's when you'll start finding yourself missing off to the left or the right slightly, and you're just like, man, what am I doing?
Like when you're not actually mindful of like,
Have you noticed, do you guys watch baseball at all?
Not really.
Okay. Well, for those of you...
I was about to say something else controversial, but we did enough last week.
Yeah. For those of you who watch baseball, take a look at the batters whenever they do a close-up before every swing. Nearly all of them take a big, deep breath and just reset.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them are a lot more animated, like Jock Peterson, like every time.
It reminds me of
the big pearls.
Reminds me of Cody Henderson there for a while. He switched up his throw a little bit. They went to a faster bag, and there for a minute, for every throw, he had this motion, and it was something a little like this.
Mm.
and then he would throw the bag. But he had to do that to keep the bag on the board, which most of them went in the hole, so it worked for him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's like you have that. I mean, for one, when you take a deep breath, you are getting more oxygen to your head. It lowers your stress levels, but it also is helping your psyche out just a little bit, and it's helping you to slow down and to focus.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're basically doing a micro reset of your programming for the game of cornhole. So thinking, okay, I'm going to take a step back, take a deep breath. All right, so now my next thing, I can concentrate on the motion of my arm, the release of my grip, and the trajectory of the bag, and just focus on those things. It gets a lot harder to do whenever you have all these other additional pressures.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, when you're playing out on the, I guess I'll call it like the floor at a tournament, where you just got all the boards, all the people, the environment is pretty similar throughout all of those. Like you go to this lane, you might have like a couple of people behind you watching in chairs or whatever. But apart from that, it's you and your opponent duking it out right there on that set of boards, and you've got people to your left and right, whatever. Everybody's doing their own thing. But then when you get up into the higher level matches, the streaming courts, broadcast courts, all that kind of stuff, that's when the almost like palpable environment shift happens.
Mm-hmm.
And it resets that entire feel of, well, what happens when I miss?
Yeah.
And you've got to have some sort of fail-safe in your head to prevent you from going down this spiral where what happens in your head affects the mechanics of your arm and your hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so whenever you have a bad bag, there shouldn't be that thought of, well, I'm going to lose now.
Yeah.
You know, or, man, I just made a big mistake.
That is true. Yeah. Because even if something does change from like, you know, what happens if I miss. So like, let's say, you know, if you miss, I'm going to shoot you a little Nerf dart like every time. But like, even if I tell you that, that's just how it is. Like, it's just like, it shouldn't change how you release the bag, how you throw the bag. That is interesting. Yeah. It's like how you get up in your head about it and what you think about what could happen completely throws you off.
It sounds so silly, but at the same time, it makes a huge difference because if you have your mechanics down, if you have your release down, all that stuff, you've got the right bag, there really shouldn't be any difference.
Yeah. And going back to whenever you make a bag shot, I see this a whole lot, and it's something I also am, like, I do it a lot. And I've started noticing it and been working on it, but, you know, you throw a bag, it's slightly off to the right. You look down at your partner, you're like, my bad, man, I'll straighten it out. Like, that kind of thought process, I feel like that plays into it a lot, too, because now you're thinking, oh, I messed that one up. Let me change something. But if you mess that shot and you're like, well, I got 3 more, and you just do it again, I mean, majority of the time that muscle memory will kick in and you'll make that next one.
Well, that's another interesting thought. Like, what does that do to your partner?
Yeah.
Like,
for
they
sure.
might start thinking, crap, I'm going to have to pick this up. And
Yeah,
that's adding
exactly.
more pressure.
Oh, yeah.
So their mistakes, the backlash from that in their head, it's going to be even higher.
Yeah.
And so it's like a negative cycle. So
Yeah.
you've got to figure out a way to program your brain into thinking, when you make a mistake, instead of it is, oh, I'm going downhill, thinking, well, I'm going to prevent anything else.
Yeah.
Right? It's like this psychological game that you're playing in your head. So yeah, that's an interesting thought, because I didn't consider from the angle of your partner
Yeah.
in that. Yeah.
I mean, it on the reverse. It's happened to me before where, you know, my partner's has a bad frame and they're just like, oh, man, I don't know. Like, come on, my bad. I suck, whatever.
Who are you talking about right now?
It was about 8 months ago,
Oh
my
my
last
God.
league partner. And I would see that now that I think about it now, because I've never really thought about it because it just happens. But now that I think about it, it does you start seeing more and more of that in a game. That does seem to be when my game starts to go downhill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Golly.
Really, it just needs to be, okay, make an adjustment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I would say I generally, for that reason, like either how my partner's throwing or how I'm throwing, instead of thinking about it like as a whole game, just a frame at a time. And like, even if, you know, my partner gives up, you know, 6, 7, 8, 12, whatever, like that sucks. And sure, that frame may have sucked, but like Just it's that frame. It doesn't mean you're throwing poorly. But I feel like even in my own head, if I have a bad frame, I feel like I'm like, oh, I'm throwing poorly this game. It's like, no, you had one bad frame. When he gets back to you, it's a whole new game. It's, it's squared away.
Yeah. And I mean, there are countless examples of crazy comebacks. And it's like, if you can properly set your own mental faculties where they need to be and keep going, and your opponent, which is kind of the other counterpart to this, getting in your opponent's head, if you can switch that dynamic, it'll make or break a game.
Oh, for sure.
It really will. And I mean, we've seen it a million times. And of course, like we've mentioned on this episode, like a lot of people reference the whole World's game with
Jay Rubin, Jordan Power.
Yeah, Jay and Jordan, Mark and Phil, like down 20-2 or 1 or something like that, and came all the way back. And of course, I think everybody knows that Jordan started getting in certain people's heads.
He was chirping a little bit.
And as a result of that, it's like that, what he said, he still gets nervous. Well, it did seem like it caused him to get nervous.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
and
sure.
it had a big impact on the play out of that game. And I think there was one shot that Phil Lopez missed in that match that he had the chance to win if he would have like gone on the side of the board and just bumped his bag, even if his went off, they would have won. And he opted not to hit that shot, and he missed what he was doing. And I think that miss for him really was the turning point. And messed him up, and they just could not get back in the right headspace.
Yeah, 'cause, I mean, if you're at 20, you're thinking, wow, we just got to get one more point. And then all of a sudden, this other team starts to get some momentum, and they're moving along, and then you see their moods go from kind of damper to all of a sudden they are like thrilled. They're chirping at you, like their whole energy changes. And then you miss a shot like that on top of it, that's definitely that's going to get in your head.
Oh yeah.
Well, when you say momentum, like that's exactly what it is. It is the thought patterns of the people that are playing.
Yeah, because it goes from all we need is 1 point to are we about to blow a 20-2 lead?
Yeah.
And you start thinking about that instead of, oh, we just need 1, and which is a complete change to the other side.
Yeah, it's like, oh, are they coming back? They're coming back. They're coming back. They're coming back. They're coming back. Instead of, oh, we just need 1 point, it's like we have to do damage control.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there are plenty of cases and examples out there where if you let those thoughts control your focus on making sure your mechanics are right, that you're executing the correct shots, it'll mess it up.
Oh, yeah. The craziest one for me, this has happened, I hate to even admit it, past 3 weeks, co-ed league. We have made it back to the king seat. We've lost games we shouldn't have lost, wound up in the loser's bracket, get back to the king seat, and just absolutely walk through the second game. And then it looks like we've never played the second, or walk through the first game, and it looks like we've never played Cornhole before in our second game. We win that first one, we get that confidence up, and it's the same thing we were talking about with the Worlds game. Our confidence was up, and the next game, if we don't start out super hot, then that confidence just slowly starts to swing, and then the game drops. Go from shooting 8s, 9s, 10s to shooting a 6. That's been one that I've got to work on it.
Dude, I just remembered something that's I've noticed about myself. If there is a person that I know nothing about, I have never met them, never talked to them, and of course, mostly importantly, I've never seen them play Cornhole. Doesn't matter if they're a professional player or not. If I don't know anything about them, walk up and play them, I have a much higher chance of winning.
Interesting.
It's happened at several events that we've gone to where I've just been out on the floor. Some guy will come over and be like, you want to throw a game? I'm like, yeah, let's warm up, get up. And I'll just one after another put them in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, keep going. And then at the end of the match, I'll be like, asking them who they are. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm so-and-so. I'm a pro, whatever. I'm like, were you trying? Like, what happened? But if I have seen someone play and I'm like, okay, that guy's good, and then I get up to them, that'll mess with me, and I will throw like I have never seen a cornhole bag in my life.
Yeah.
Now, see, for me, one thing is, I guess also if I know something about them. But if someone is not great at cornhole, I feel like that messes with me, and I start throwing at their level.
Oh yeah.
That's like a big issue for me. And it's like, I'll beat them. Like if there's somebody who's just genuinely bad at cornhole, I will win. But I will have to fight for my life
Yep.
to earn it. Like I'm sweating.
Maybe that's
throwing
what
a 5.
happens when I'm playing against you guys.
Maybe.
God. For the record, I think it's fair to mention that last week we talked about how Kendall has this thing when somebody walks up next to him with fast bags.
But, okay,
He's like,
before we get into this, I'm not trying to upset an entire
Yes, you
cornhole community who likes fast bags. I probably should have
he's just
spoken
saying
a little
that he's
clearer.
cocky. That's what he's saying.
No.
But I came up and played him with bags faster than Ravager Furies, and he beat the brakes off of me.
We did
10
a,
10 to nothing.
We did a
10 to nothing.
Or no, sorry,
I was gonna say, that was the
it was
second
10
one.
to nothing at frame 5.
yeah, we did a 10-round shootout, but we didn't even make it around 10.
It was bad. So I have no room to talk.
Are you going to practice, or are you just leaving it at a loss?
Well, see, we also talked about how I didn't become better at cornhole until slow bags came out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I will not be throwing fast bags again.
Which, like I was saying last week, that for me, that's a mental thing for me. You know, I have a good track record against fast bags, and so I see somebody with a fast bag, it boosts my confidence. That's another psychological thing. Like, who you're playing against can really determine all that, too.
Yeah. What are some of the things that mess with you guys the most, like in an opponent? Like,
I know
things-
my number one off the rip.
Let's say it at the same time.
It's if somebody doesn't
a
hold.
bag.
Yeah, if they don't
Yep.
hold all 4 of their bags,
oh, they bend
Yeah.
down.
and they bend down and pick up. But specifically, it's people who put them at the very front of the board, and all the time. Which I'm sure at a pro level, people are more mindful of it, but at a more local sense, people frequently go to pick up their bag during my backswing. And so I'm left-handed, so if I'm throwing on the inside, which I guess doesn't matter, but if you're throwing on the inside, if I think I'm gonna hit them in the head, if I don't know how long they're gonna
Just hit him in the head.
I know.
I
That's
accidentally hit, I think it was Jason. I think I hit Jason in the head one time. I hit somebody in the head one time when they did it, and they quit picking their bags up. I felt so bad.
What happens in that scenario, rule wise?
I don't know.
They quit crying and throw
Do
their
they
next bag.
do they forfeit 6? Is that what it is?
If
That'd
you
be
hit them in
nice.
the head,
Well, I mean, if they make contact with your body.
Interesting.
but are they making contact with you, or are you making contact with them?
Well,
At that point.
if they impede your throwing lane,
I was about to say, technically, they are in your throwing lane, or they're in dead space at that point.
But what if the
Technically, your
person
arm is
throwing
too.
causes damage? What if they lay them out?
Bloody nose.
take that. I'll teach
Oh,
you to
Lord.
bend over when I'm throwing.
But yeah, no, that I'll throw a 5 PPR max if somebody is somebody who picks up one bag at a time.
Now I
Yeah,
know what
that's-
to do.
Yep,
That's
yep.
one big benefit. There's been a bunch, dude. I don't know why I threw inside for so long. Throwing outside, that is another thing that is just completely erased from my psychological side of cornhole. It used to bother me so bad, but now that I throw outside, it's not as bad. I'm able to just ignore it. But that was the one, if you're picking your bags up, golly, this is about to be a long game because I'm waiting 30 seconds between every throw.
Yep, yep.
I'm totally guilty as charged of this, but this is another one. When you throw it, or your opponent throws it, and their partner picks it up off the ground on the other end, if they throw
I
it
hear
off
a
the back.
lot of people complaining about that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've done that before or whatever, and then at some point I started thinking well, I'm probably messing with this person's visual during their throw.
Yeah.
So I'm going to keep doing it.
So yeah, let's keep going.
I think if they pick it up and they're over there spinning the bag and doing other things, I will admit there are times where if I'm looking down at my opponent or even my teammate, but if they're on the phone talking or if they're doing stuff down there, I feel I start focusing on what my opponents are doing or what the people on the other end are doing.
Yeah.
That definitely gets in my head a little bit.
If the bubble of the match gets broken,
yeah.
that definitely messes with
Ooh,
me.
yeah. If there's a tablet issue
Oh, yeah.
halfway through and we gotta
that really throws me off.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
I've
done
got that
for.
cycle, that rhythm,
Yeah.
and then I start to think, okay, I have to reset. But then I'll focus so hard on resetting that I'll overcompensate. Or dude, yeah, That gets to me bad.
Another thing I see a lot in the hideaway, we've got one side that's right up against the wall. I mean, you've got maybe, 2 foot behind the board. Then you've got a solid concrete wall. And then on the other end, it's wide open. And we've got, hundreds, close to 100 people in there every Thursday. There are people who cannot throw facing the crowd. They just get so distracted by everything going on behind the boards. And, there's been times where, it was just last week, we had to do a bag spin for a side of the board because I wanted outside. And my opponent wanted outside, but they wanted to face the wall. I was like, well, I'm staying where I'm at unless you want to spin. Lost the spin, and they lost the game.
Interesting.
So I guess another weird, interesting thing that has messed with me in the past, if I'm throwing with someone who is not as good as I am, like somebody who is worse, which it's hard to find those people these days.
It's almost impossible.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you want to be my partner and you've never played Cornhole before, hit me up. Yeah, so if I'm playing with somebody like that, it actually brings me down, like, because I'll think, okay, I've got to carry this, I've got to all this, and that'll really mess with my head. But if I'm playing with someone really good, it's like my confidence level is up for some reason. And I've even noticed down to the way that my muscles are. Like I have this tension when I don't feel confident, but when I'm confident, like I'm limber, my muscles are fine, and it helps my mechanics and rhythm and all that. And so when I play with somebody that's good, well, they're going to be good, but then I also improve too. So it makes our chances significantly better. So it's weird how what happens up here also can affect the way that your body responds to things.
Yeah, I was going to say similarly to that, and kind of going back to what I was talking about earlier, but if I have if Kendall and I are partners and we're throwing against another team and the other person is, throws a 10-5, and then that's who Kendall's throwing against, in my head, it's like, okay, he's probably just going to wash it out down there. Like, he's not going to be getting a lot of points. And then I get in my head of it's my job to get the points down here. It's like, even if he's throwing 12s, if he's throwing against somebody who's also throwing 12s, all the points are going to come from me down there. And so even if the person I'm throwing against is throwing a 7, I'm probably going to be throwing a 7 too. And so that gets in my head a lot too.
Yeah, that happens a lot for me as well. Face-ups, you'll see a lot of people kind of switching where they throw inside, outside, left, right, based on who they want to throw against. And I tried that for a little while too. I threw that out the window because I can't. That's even worse. But you do see a lot of people switching it up just to get that confidence boost. Like, this is the guy who needs to be doing the washing it out, and then this is the guy who needs to be making the big shots to get all the points. I mean, we saw it at Bag and Bash,
with Harbaugh and Gavin.
Yeah, because Harbaugh was down there with Cheyenne. They were just going bag for bag, not many points on that end. And then the other end was just crazy roll shots, air mails, just a crazy
Make it
game.
nasty. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about this? So another one, I've only seen this happen a few times, like in serious matches. I've seen people just mess around doing it, but people who look at you in the face when you're throwing, like people who will look over.
Like the person you're throwing right next to, or
yes,
people down there. Oh,
this guy right here beside me.
I've never seen
standing
that in
at the
wild.
line and looking back at my face, like that.
Never.
That stuff. That woo. That's
the pressure.
I've never seen it. I'm not saying
I
it
haven't
wouldn't
either.
work. That would work on me for sure.
100%, I think.
If I was just getting straight pupils the whole time,
I can just see.
way.
I can't see the makeup of the person's detailed face in my peripheral vision, but I just know it. I feel it. You know. Yeah. I've only ever had that happen to me one time ever, which once again it was at a Triple Crown thing. And
he just stared at you.
Yeah, just it wasn't I don't even know how to describe it. It wasn't him just sitting.
You don't have to say it, but you know who this was.
I have no clue.
Damn,
yeah.
I want a face for a visual of this. Yeah. Just this guy.
Yeah. I ended up beating him, but
that's good. He deserves it.
Funny thing, he was actually throwing. This was the first year that we came out with Titan during this tournament.
Okay,
but he was throwing the old original stealth bomber bags.
Oh wow!
Oh, okay, that's neat.
Maybe he saw you as like a celebrity and he was just locked in.
I don't know about that, but yeah, I mean, he was respectfully just standing there, but just kind of like looking over, like watching, and I'm like, I don't like this
No.
at all.
No,
That would make
I
me
would say
so
something.
uncomfortable.
I would say I have enough anxiety to where I feel like anything that would get in my head, there's no way I'm going to say something because I would feel silly. But that, totally justifiable. Just stop right now,
What,
please.
is there like a rule? Like, could
that's
that
what I've
be
been
enforced?
thinking.
Doubt it.
There would have to be. If there was some... I'm showing up to the qualifier. I'm getting the whole way through. Just stare down, dude.
All right, everybody.
I thought
There's your
about?
ticket to success right there. Just
I'm shaving
stare
my
at it.
eyebrows off.
Oh,
just
gosh.
like, just
You know what popped into my head when you started talking about that? It was the very first podcast, that little clip where I
Oh
think
my-
the radio went off
Yes,
or something.
we
I
both-
look at you.
I need to
just-
find that clip.
I can just see you out there. The guy's staring at you. You're just like,
Oh, my
I forgot
goodness.
about that clip. That's such a good clip.
Yeah, so actually what we're doing in this episode is we're teaching you bad habits
Yep.
so that you can go out and socially engineer your cornhole games.
Fabricate some points.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
What about stepping over the line?
Yeah,
Like to the point like they're breaking the rules or the future rules. Like if it's like a follow through, that doesn't bother me. But if it's enough to the point to where like they know they're breaking the rules, but because it's like a local blind draw, they don't care and they know an ACL official is not going to pop out of the bathroom somewhere. Like
Why
then
the bathroom?
I don't know. Where else would they be hiding in a public event? I don't know. I just picked a closed area. I don't know.
Just pop out from underneath Keck's desk.
There it is.
that was a good pop.
That was.
Thanks, guys. I've been working hard on it. I've been practicing all week.
He was on the way to work. He's like, I'm going to use this today. But yeah, like I feel like if they're just straight up like stepping over for every throw, yeah, that would bother me. But if it's like a follow through and it's like they're just being a little dramatic, it doesn't really bother me.
What
Yeah,
about my
'cause-
throw?
Doesn't bother me.
Which one? You've got 4.
Because I'm one of those guys when I want to throw a hard shot, when I go for a bar of soap, I'll probably wind up right in front of you about 5 feet away. Like it just happens.
Yeah.
I can't I think about it now, especially that they've been talking about the new rule change.
Mm-hmm.
I've thought about it and I still can't prevent myself from doing it. It just happens.
Mm.
It's a natural movement of my body. And so,
God, how is that going to affect people's heads?
oh
like,
man,
good
there
grief.
ain't no telling,
Yeah.
honestly.
like that'll totally. I mean, obviously, it's going to screw up a lot of people's physical rhythms. But then having that thing in the back of your head, like I'm going to get in trouble if I do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just so many things that can affect what you're thinking about during a match.
I almost wish like before every game starts, all players involved, they could just be like, do you care? Yes or no? And if
Yeah.
everybody's like, I don't care. And then just everybody's stepping.
Yeah.
It'd be nice.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, if you want to stand with your foot halfway across the line, I really don't care. If that's what it takes, go ahead.
I think I would care on that
I
one.
mean, I would
Yeah, I think
probably
that, yeah,
say
that,
something
yeah,
about
that.
that.
One, yeah.
Yeah.
If they just were just planted halfway in front of the board.
Mm.
Yeah, no.
I mean, there's one guy in
This
every
guy, see,
Thursday
he's
for
getting
league.
he's getting confident, like really, really
Mhm.
confident.
Well, let me explain myself. There's one guy at league. He is very, very good. I'm not saying any names, but he is insanely good. I don't know how he never gets called out for it because he is stepping at least an inch or two over the line every single throw, and nobody says anything.
I wonder if that inch or two is what's causing him to win.
Probably.
I doubt it. I'm pretty sure he could step like 3 foot back and still win. And that's why it doesn't bother me. Because, I mean,
Yeah.
you see, like, Haley, she's halfway back down the board, and she still goes good. I think it's Sarah Cassie stands at the back of the board when she throws. She still makes it. I mean, if you step up 3-4 inches, I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference.
I guess depending on what kind of throw style you got.
Yeah. I mean, I could see it making a difference for like an airmail or something. But
Yeah, there have been plenty of times I've gone for an airmail that I literally missed by an inch.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and I mean, either way, if that's how they're doing it every time, they're trained for that distance.
Yeah.
If they step back, they're going to be trained for that distance.
Ooh, here's a goodie on the list. So in the NFL, NBA, like professional sports, you see these penalties and fines for certain types of celebrations and stuff
Mhm.
that happen. Do you guys think that there should be something like that in Cornhole because of how that affects people's.
Should I would say no. Do I think it'll happen? Yes. I think if the ACL follows the trajectory that we all hope it does, where it gets to that point of the NFL, the NBA, stuff like that, I think ultimately, yeah, just for TV purposes, sponsor purposes, eventually once, team whatever has a ton of money involved in it, then yeah, I think there will be some form of fine. And I also think I guess I don't know, because one of the things I've always thought about with like the chirping, like the general just kind of talking smack during a game, is the same stuff happens in the NBA and the NFL. They're just not mic'd up.
Yeah.
That's the only difference. And so it's really not the players' fault that they're mic'd up.
Yeah.
And so I guess I don't know how they're going to go about that.
I guess you've never seen, anything mic'd up from NFL.
No.
Oh, yeah.
They'll do it every once in a while.
Yeah, that's fun. One of my favorite mic'd up moments in MLB, Mookie Betts was out like in left field or right field, and the broadcasters are doing an interview with him, like in play, and he's mic'd up sitting there.
Are they all mic'd up, or do they
cool.
pick people like?
They pick them.
Okay.
They'll
But
kinda
they-
cut to clips here and there.
Yeah.
It's
Okay,
never
okay.
like an entire
But they
game.
hit it to him mid-interview.
Yeah.
And,
I've
and,
seen
and
that
he
clip.
like takes off running. He's like, "Hang on, boys!" And he goes and he catches it. And he's like, "All
amazing.
right, back to the interview."
Oh my god. I was gonna say, if they were all mic'd up, I would love to hear an NFL like just just the
all the
noise.
linemen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with Josh. I think at some point it will have to go there. I think there are ways to get around it. Like he said, not being mic'd up, that'd be super easy. And then you could get around it, but I would hate to see it happen.
What kind of celebrations do you think that they would throw out? Like,
I don't think particularly celebrations. I think it would be more of the chirping, the trash talking.
Yeah.
I think that's where people would start to get fined. Anything negative. But I mean, that's part of it. One of the
for sure.
I would say the most famous clip in Cornhole is from a guy chirping on a 20-2 comeback.
yeah,
And I mean, it's part of it. I would hate to see it go, but I think, like Josh is saying, the way it's projected to go, the way everybody wants it to go, it would have to happen.
It's just inevitable.
Yeah.
And I think for sure any form of like disrespectful celebration, like, which it's happened in the NBA, like if you flip somebody a bird or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And then I can't remember who it was. I think last year, like did like the thumb over the neck to somebody. And I think it was like $35,000. Which at the NBA, they don't care. But
yeah, I got that.
yeah, and so I think any form of that type of stuff, anything that would be disrespectful, I think will for sure eventually be, completely cut out.
Well, gosh, I would imagine that kind of stuff is already out. But like,
There was a scenario over the weekend at the Open. No, it was the shootout where one of the players started waving bye to the opponent. Had a big round. He said, just started waving right at him, staring at him.
I like that.
Yeah.
See, I don't think it's a bad thing.
And that's the thing is like with the NFL or like, touchdown celebrations is they're allowed, but within reason and like things they're allowed to do. And a lot of the times the players know that the audience and the general public love it and they eat it up. And so a lot of the times they do it knowing they're going to get fined. And it's just because it's like, I'm going to kind of do it for the culture thing.
Yeah.
And I think that'll be the trajectory that Cornhole goes as well.
Well, like I want them to be able to let players play psychologically too.
And just to be themselves.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't want anybody up there to have a mask on, have them try and hide behind media or whatever. Like, get up there, play your game, and it'll be way more enjoyable.
Yeah.
I guess that brings up the question that I'm assuming we're all on the same page, but do you guys prefer players who do chirp? And I guess you could
100%.
You could
100%.
even if you were to put them in the obnoxious box of a category, do you prefer those players?
Okay.
100%.
Well, hold on. Okay.
I said if. I guess I don't have a great example.
I do think there are limits.
Yeah.
Like there are certain times that you do it, and there are certain things that you do say that I think are off limits, right?
Well, yeah.
But I mean, I think that it makes watching it so much more interesting
Absolutely.
when you get to see like the display of what's going on in everybody's heads.
Yeah, I mean,
Rather
as long
than-
as it's harmless, just harmless fun.
Right.
Like, oh, he's nervous. Like that's not hurting anybody. Now, if you were to be like, oh, the bags you're throwing are terrible. That company sucks. Yeah, that's out of hand.
That would obviously
Yeah.
be off limits kind of stuff. But I think it's cool to be able to take part in that. Not to mention, I mean, I guess take note, sponsors of major like professional cornhole leagues and stuff. It's like those are the clips that everybody watches.
Yes.
Like,
And fun fact, there was I still crack up about it. There was a post by the ACL several months ago. It's like, who is the best trash talker? Every single one of them was part of Team Titan.
Oh yeah, it was like 5 players, and it's like, who's your favorite trash talker in the ACL? And I think it was 4 out of 5 players were all in Titan.
Yep. You can see which way we lean.
well, I mean, here Kendall and I are talking about how we love the chirping and stuff. So, maybe that's got something to do with it. I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, I think that the psychology aspect of it does play a huge factor in it. So now I'm sitting here thinking, if I wanted to go do an experiment, like now having registered in my head, I know that these things affect me a lot. So what are things I can do both for myself and against my opponent? Because, dude, you guys know it. There are certain things that people that you play against, they will just be so upset if you start doing them.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I mean, I've been against people that, like, I just naturally flip the bag, and they'll get very frustrated very quickly.
Yeah, especially if they're round pellets, I can hear it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
The crunchy bags.
yeah.
Believe it or not, one of my favorite parts of when I first started learning to roll, you throw a roll bag, there are some people, they just quit right then and there. One roll bag and they are done. And that's another thing. Like, the way you play can also affect, can really affect somebody's psychological game.
Yeah.
You're just slide bags, and all of a sudden you want to switch up to a dirty board. That can really mess somebody up.
Yeah.
Also, why I wish they would have done the bag change rule. I wish it would have went into effect. It would have. It would have been so good for the psychological side.
Yeah. Yeah. One, I think my favorite, I guess, like psychological, game is something. Kendall did it once or twice back in the day, which is where we do a down and back. And then without people paying attention, Kendall would just say, Josh, do you just want to throw with your left hand this game? This should be easy. But because I'm left-handed, I'd be like, yeah, we'll just do that. And like,
That's pretty good.
Yeah. He's like, you just want to throw with your left hand instead? I was like, yeah, I'll do that. And there were like once where I could tell it slight, like they were just like, wait, what now? Yeah.
Dude, I said it was, we were playing
It was
somebody.
when we were at that tournament that your family put on.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, man, I can see their face. Was it? Oh,
It wasn't the people that won, but it was the people
No.
in like 3rd place or 4th place.
yeah, because I was like, hey,
think
Josh, throw left-handed this game. And then he just dunked like 3 airmails first round. And they were like, what is going on?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
It was so good. I used to love that line.
Yep.
It didn't work as well for people that knew you were left-handed, but golly, you got
Out in
that
the wild,
one.
it was good.
It was so good.
Yeah. What are some other just hilarious ideas you guys could come up with for just bizarre things to do?
I'm going to really focus in on the whole stare down. That's all
Oh,
I
yeah.
care about now.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one
That's
thing
it.
Haley does. She will, when she's going down and back, she will miss every single bag, but make it look like it's not intentional. And then people are like, oh, it's a girl. She's not good. And then she will just drag somebody that first round.
That's smart.
Yeah.
And you'll see them. They're just
I
out
do have
after
to
that.
admit, I have done that before. Well, I'll throw trash on the down and backs on purpose. And then I'm sure everybody's going to grill me for that. But and then on the first frame, I'll just dial it in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Give me that bag over there. Give me that bag.
While
See
he's
if we
getting up,
can-
this is one question I have is at pro events, correct me if I'm wrong, I probably should know this, but down and backs are also utilized to decide on bags. And so like if during a down and back, if they're like, oh, these boards are too slow, we're going to change bags. They're allowed to do that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so I feel like I almost would just want to do down and backs and then they'd be like, all right, you ready to go? Like, yeah, I'm good. And then just immediately swap to the other bags.
I'd probably get them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Or
Just confidently do the down and back, throw great.
yeah, like just hit every shot
Yeah.
and be like, those bags weren't working for me.
Yeah. No, those are just my warm-up bags.
Like, what is working? That
Yeah.
looked pretty good to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it okay? Here's the question. That's why I got you to give me this bag. Is it illegal for a player to have any part of their body extended over the line while the other player is throwing?
You have to stay.
Because I think the official rule says feet.
I think it has changed.
And what if
Because
your
I think
posture
there
is
is-
just terrible?
I
Like-
think there is now.
I mean, look at okay, everybody watching, look at this. Like, look at that angle. My head could be like 20
Yeah.
feet over the line.
Yeah.
I think there is an imaginary box now.
Okay, so like you theoretically you couldn't just have your bag up like that with your hand
I
out.
don't know. I'm gonna have
'Cause,
to dive
dude,
into
that
that.
would
That would-
definitely mess with me.
What if you do the little like wind check? Like, well,
Oh my gosh, I feel like we need to have an episode where we just like find a random blind draw
oh my,
Just
on-
go do all
on
this.
Scoreholio and just like have the little pin cameras
oh my
and
gosh.
just start like doing all these weird things.
Hey, I'm going out of town next week.
Oh man.
We have already found a blind draw. I will strap my GoPro up. I got a little
Give you a
little
list of
mount,
weird
like,
stuff
there.
to do.
I'll do it.
Have y'all ever
That'd be
seen that
funny.
TV show Impractical Jokesters?
Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
So like you should do that. I'll like give you my like little hidden headphone things,
Mm-hmm.
and you can just be there, and me and Josh will be telling you what to do
Oh my
behind the scenes.
That would be so good.
Oh my gosh, that would make for some fun videos.
Oh, that would be good.
Y'all are playing. I will 100% do it. I will
On
find
next week's episode.
I will find a blind draw next Thursday, 4:00. I will make it happen.
Well, I was just thinking like another thing that would really just mess with me. What if the person was wearing a fake mustache?
Oh yeah. Just or if I pulled up in like a medium shirt, just like busting out.
Is that how Jimmy Sear does it?
Yeah. Oh my god.
Oh, I am done.
I guess okay. You weren't there at the pro blind draw, right?
I was
you
not.
You were at the venue.
He was
that's right.
working.
So, I guess like I can ask you like Jimmy Sear I loved the energy that him and Bernadette
Oh,
had.
it was so good.
But do we feel like there were a few moments that it teetered on the obnoxiousness, like on the obnoxious level? Like if that was on ESPN, would you have been caught off guard a little bit?
I would say probably so.
Just screaming
which,
at the top of your lungs, "This is why we're here!"
Yeah.
5 times over and over. Like,
Granted,
I
though.
loved it. I loved it. I thought it was great, amazing experience. But if I saw that on ESPN, I would be a little like, "What is
I'd be
going
like,
on?"
yeah. Especially somebody who is not deep into the culture. I
Yeah.
could see them be like, what in the world am I watching?
Yeah.
But granted, the environment it was in,
Yeah.
loved it. But if I saw somebody doing it on ESPN, I would be a little concerned.
But I would be quite proud. Like if I saw like one of our pros just look at the camera and be like, "I want the big check." 100%.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
That'd be
Oh
good.
my
Please.
Oh, if they could say it like he says it,
Oh my gosh.
that would be.
It was fluid coming from him.
But
that
then,
night.
but then, if you lose,
Oh,
you're
it's
gonna
rough.
get destroyed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there have been some good examples of that.
Very good examples.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, just like we end all other episodes, if you want to boost your psyche a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
there it is. Oh, God. There we go. There we go. that messes with my head. Yeah, use the code Geartalk for 5% off your order at westgeorgiacornhole.com
Mhm.
or titancornholebags.com.
Yeah.
Show us some love because we get a bigger budget. We have committed to this now.
We
Like,
have.
Oh, yeah.
we'll get a bigger budget if
We
you
will
do
get
that,
a budget.
and then we'll be able
We will get a budget in
we will-
general.
we'll be able to buy one of those like spy pen things.
Yeah.
And then we can send Kendall out into the field and we can give him
Yeah.
a fake mustache.
Yeah.
He can go undercover.
I'll even shave this off for the fake mustache.
Man. All
Wait,
right.
that's real?
Chill.
Chill.
All
Still,
right.
still mad about me stealing your intro last week.
I am.
Salty.
First thing I thought about when I woke up this morning.
Not gonna lie, I actually did think about that this morning.
Did you really?
I did, yeah.
That's good. That's good. I didn't. I lied.
All right, signing off. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.